Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talks about what's really happening. And let's have conversations about what truth is. Happy Friday. It is Friday. We've got a couple of crazy things happening today. Two really good guests that we're going to have today. So we're going to talk about radical Islam and Big Pharma. Because, you know, I don't like small subjects. So, I mean, I don't like big subjects. So we want to talk about small stuff and see if we can come to a conclusion on that. So kind of let's walk through what we're going to be talking about. I think we have, let me get to it. I'm poorly prepared right now. Should have done this before I got on here. Sorry, guys. You can blame it on me. All right. So let's talk about our guests for a minute, shall we? Our first guest is going to be Robert Spencer. He is a scholar and the director of Jihad Watch. We might not agree on everything, but I think we will. And because look, I spent 6.5 years in the Middle East and Africa. I learned Arabic. Got to hang. The food there is absolutely amazing. I think you'll probably agree with me. And got to hang out with a lot of cool people, a lot of neat people. And I do recognize that there is a radical part of Islam. And I just hope that radical part of Islam is getting smaller, not bigger. And that we can get to a conclusion where we can, stop some of this infiltration that's happening in our country. Because it is pretty pronounced. I mean, there's some major problems that we have with those radical elements in the United States. And that follows some of the lawlessness that we have. So the lawlessness allows for these cults, almost communities that are militant communities to pop up. You got them in Michigan, you got them all over the place. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about our guest, and then I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time, and I'm going to bring him in. But and then at the end, if I have time, I want to go through kind of what's happening with Tina Peters, and we'll probably push that off a little bit here because I really, really want to have this conversation with Robert Spencer. Let me tell you a little bit about him before I bring him on. He's director of Jihad Watch and Shillman Fellow at the David Horowitz Freedom Center. He's a senior fellow with the Center for Security Policy. He's authored 31 books. So by the time I'm done here, hopefully after this conversation, I'll jump in and I'll grab some books. So far, I've had to up how many books I've read and stay up late at night to get through some of the books of some of the guests we've had here recently. So he has some upcoming works: Holy Hell, Islam's Abuse of Women and the Infidels Who Enable It. I hope he's not talking about me. I'm not going to enable any sort of jihadis. That's not what I'm up to. I do want to maintain a certain amount of humanity while recognizing the threat. He's led seminars on Islam and jihad, but for the FBI, U.S. Central Command, U.S. Army Command, and General Staff College. U.S. Army Asymmetric Warfare Group, Joint Terrorism Task Force, Justice Department's Anti-Terrorism Advisory Council, and U.S. Intelligence Community. And he's done a bunch of international engagements discussing jihad, Islam, and terrorism, and workshops sponsored by the U.S. State Department and German Foreign Ministry. So I will ask him if he's working with the good part of the State Department or the bad part. But I'm sure he did a lot of good while he was there. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time. I'm going to play this clip first. This is in Dearborn, Michigan. This is thousands of Muslims take to the streets in Dearborn to commemorate Imam Hussein. Let's play this, and then we'll bring our guest in. Let's play it.
I'm Christina Awayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. 40,000 Muslims packed the streets in Dearborn, Michigan for a religious Aberdeen march, raising red flags on the increasing Islamic influence in America. Many are now pointing to calls that have been made by Muslims to take down America, saying their people are willing to fight and give their lives to bring America down. The event is being described as the largest Aberdeen procession in the United States. It's a Shia religious event observed primarily by Shia Muslims and celebrates the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, the grandson of their prophet Muhammad. This annual pilgrimage draws millions worldwide to Karbala in Iraq, but it's now starting to build on American soil. The event transformed a typical suburban roadway into a sea of black-clad marchers chanting religious slogans, waving flags, and carrying banners, a scene more reminiscent of the Middle East than the Midwest. The procession has sparked concerns about the preservation of the country's Judeo-Christian foundation, with concerns over Islamic takeovers in the U.S. The current Muslim population in Dearborn is about 60,000 people, representing about 55 to 60% of the total residents. In addition, the mayor of Dearborn, Abdullah Hamad, is Muslim, as well as the city council president and 5 of the 7 city council members. That's what.
So with that said, that was a lot to take in, because I have some perspective on this, and assimilation comes to mind. But with that said, Robert Spencer, welcome to the show.
Good to talk to you, Joe. Thank you.
It's good to have you on. So we have a little bit of a problem when 40,000 people are taking to the streets to threaten to take down America. It's kind of a problem.
Well, it's an Ashura procession. This kind of thing happens all over the world. The Shiites, as was pointed out, are mourning the killing of the Imam Hussein, Muhammad's grandson, by the Sunnis. This was the beginning of the Sunni-Shiite split in the year 680 in Karbala and in Iraq. And every year they celebrate it. Celebrating is not really the word, because they whip themselves, and go do all these things, take knives and cut their heads so the blood pours down. And this is all because they were not able to save Hussein from this fate. This kind of thing is not directly violent, not calling for takeover. That's not to say that there is no violence and no calls for takeover. There are. But this thing in particular, it's not really the kind of thing that we've seen in America before. I'm not excusing it. I'm not condemning it either. I'm just saying this is something we have not seen in America before, particularly the more graphic aspects of it. But this is not we're taking over America kind of territory that we saw in those clips.
Well, I mean, let's get to the bottom of a couple things. One, I actually don't care what religion you are, as long as you don't try to kill people and you act with a certain amount of decency and ethics, morals. But Dearborn has 106,000 people in it, and of the 106,000, 60% are Muslim. 60.
Mm-hmm.
So in essence, we have created these communities that, by all intents and purposes, are, I mean, it's basically little Middle East. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, you're right. You're onto something here. This is a true fact. It's not just that it's a 60% Muslim population, but that with that, you get people who believe that they ought to impose Islamic law. And so it was 10, 15 years ago, as a matter of fact, that in Dearborn, when the Muslim population was much smaller than it is now, there were some Christian preachers who went there to an Arab festival. It wasn't even a Muslim festival. It was an Arab festival, and there are plenty of Arab Christians, and they were preaching Christianity. And the Dearborn police came and arrested them because preaching Christianity is against Islamic law. Now, you may say, wait a minute, we're not under Islamic law in the United States. And so they had every right to preach Christianity wherever they wanted, including an Arab festival in Dearborn, Michigan. And that's precisely the point. If the police were willing to enforce Islamic law, even 15 years ago, How much more has that initiative advanced since then?
Well, quite a bit, and that brings me to, a question that's not on my this is kind of a question to be asked. Our judiciary is completely rotted to the core.
Yeah.
I mean, I had dinner
But
with
also they have no,
what's that?
not only are they rotten to the core and corrupt from top to bottom, but they don't have any clue about this as a threat. And they see, well, all the things that we've all been told since 9/11 and before that Islam is a religion of peace, that Islamophobia is the real problem, that it's a religion like any other religion that teaches the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. And so there's nothing to worry about whatsoever about it. And anybody who does raise any concerns about it is a racist, bigoted Islamophobe who ought to be rejected by all decent people. And since that is the prevailing view among the judiciary, not a single thing is being done to ensure the word that you said a few minutes ago, assimilation, is happening. There is no assimilation, at least among some of the Muslim population in Dearborn and its environs, and that is a cause for grave concern.
Yeah, well, we're also seeing segregation happen in a way in the United States. It's very purposeful. You have this Muslim population there, and if you look around the country, we tried to kill or quell segregation in the 50s, and now we look at it today, and it's more pronounced than ever before. You could argue that that you're creating a caste system. So all the horrible aspects of most countries overseas are all coming here to the United States.
That's right.
Along with it, the filth, the corruption, the crime, the degradation of society, and in large part, the degradation of education. I mean, you could argue that education in Dearborn is one of the worst, in the country.
Mhm. And it was all in the name of diversity that all this was brought in. And now, as the newscaster noted, Dearborn has a Muslim mayor and a majority Muslim city council, and they immediately ruled that pride flags couldn't be flown on public property. Now, a lot of non-Muslims are all for that and want to rein in all the pride business, and that's perfectly reasonable. There's
Yeah.
no problem with that at all. However, the big problem is that we were told that this was all about wonderful diversity, and the diversity is becoming very monochromatic in Dearborn. And that is because Islam teaches that the unbelievers have to submit to the hegemony of the Muslims, and they're not allowed to make any public displays of their religion. Which, in this case, a lot, like I say, a lot of people have no problem if it's a pride flag. But when it comes to, well, now that we've established that, we're going to make sure that the churches don't have their annual procession for Easter or whatever, then it's a different matter.
Whew, a lot to take in on that subject specifically because, frankly, I don't have a problem with, and this is going to sound vulgar. To me, there's no difference in you know, gluing a dildo to the top of your head and putting a pride flag up. I don't
Yeah,
care
I don't
about
have
your
a problem with
sexuality.
that. That's not the it's kind of unfortunate that that's the first thing that they acted against because it tends to obscure the problem.
Yeah,
And yeah, as far as I'm concerned, all of that kind of thing,
it's
it shouldn't
nonsense.
be a public property anyway. But the fact is that the same beliefs and the same outlook on the world that led them to pass the bill that forbade the pride flag is also something that is used in majority Muslim countries in the Middle East and elsewhere to restrict the practice of Christianity and other religions. And that's why it's a matter of concern.
Okay, so let me ask you. I mean, this is kind of it's a really weird question. Uh, Muslims, Christians, and Jews all come from the Abrahamic faith. All came from the same point, let's say. Um, and you could argue, well, maybe you couldn't argue. You could argue that all three of those religions. I'm a Christian. And I have Muslim friends and I have Jewish friends, and I look at some of the things that we do in killing people with impunity, and I can't get behind it. I look at what Muslims have done, killing people with impunity. I can't get behind it. I look at what Israel has done, and killing people, can't get behind it. It feels like, and maybe I'm looking at this wrong. It feels like all three lack leadership that can do the right thing. It's almost as if we're doing. And am I looking at that too from a painting that maybe is too broad brush?
How about this? Think about this. What does Christianity teach about human nature? Original sin. What is original sin? The idea that there is good and evil inside everyone. And like Solzhenitsyn, the great Russian dissident, said, the dividing line between good and evil is not between one group of people and another. It goes down every human heart. And he was a great Christian. This is a fundamental Christian principle. Now, that means that when you look at the world, you can see every group in the world doing evil things.
Yeah.
And there is no doubt about that whatsoever. Now, the difference and the reason why it's a matter for concern is because open up the New Testament, read it from cover to cover. What do you find? Do you find it saying to go and commit these injustices,
No.
to go and kill people, to establish your hegemony? None of that is in there. That doesn't mean that Christians have been sinless and perfect throughout history, but none of that is in there. When they act that way, they do not have justification within the actual faith. Open the Quran, it's a different story. And it says, kill them wherever you find them, fight the unbelievers, fight the people of the book, that is the Jews and the Christians, until they submit and pay the tax. Fight them until religion is all for Allah, which means you could be minding your own business, but your religion is not all for Allah, then somebody's going to come for you eventually. And so many other things that I can quote. And that means...
So I've read the Quran. I've read the Quran. I've read the Torah. I've read the Talmud. I've read the...
you read the Talmud. Wow. Really?
Yeah.
The whole thing?
No, not the whole thing. Enough to be like, ugh.
2,500 pages.
Yeah, no, I haven't read the whole thing, but I probably am 2/3 of the way through it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, but I read it because I want to understand people's perspective. Like, why does one person hate me over another person? What's that?
We can talk about that, but the Quran gives justification so that when jihadis read it, they can say, we are just doing what the book says. And this is what the book tells us. And they make recruits among peaceful Muslims, and they justify their actions among peaceful Muslims by pointing to all these passages in the Quran and the example of Muhammad. That's what makes the Quran unique and difficult to deal with in a free society.
Are there good parts of the Quran? Is there a good part that you could go to and say, okay, this actually, if they were to follow just this part of the Quran, then it would be a righteous group of people?
No. Sorry. Look,
I'm asking the question because I mean
I wrote the thing here. So it's not like I don't know that what's in it.
Yeah. But there are stuff in there about helping your neighbor and describing who the infidel is and people that are of unbelief. What's that?
That's the problem. As far as Muslims being nice to other Muslims, I'm glad they do that, but that is something that doesn't concern me. I'm just trying to get the focus back. There we go. Something that doesn't concern me because I'm not a Muslim. And insofar as it speaks about the treatment of non-Muslims, it's all bad. And that's why you asked me if are there passages where if they just followed those, then everything would be okay. There are passages that say say, like chapter 109, say to the unbelievers, you don't not worship what I worship, and I do not worship what you worship. You're not going to worship what I worship, and I'm not going to worship what you worship. You have your religion and we have ours. So it's like, let's just leave each other alone. The
Yeah.
problem is that is not considered by the Islamic authorities across the board, Sunni, Shiite, various others, various schools of jurisprudence. That's not the last word. The understanding is that the doctrine, that the passages calling for warfare take precedence over passages calling for tolerance. And so you can say, well, maybe if they just paid attention to the passages calling for tolerance, but there is actually no Islamic tradition that has ever understood the Quran that way. And so Westerners might say, well, we'll just make it up, or there needs to be a new tradition or a new understanding. It's not that easy. These things are established, and that's very important in itself, because if something is established by consensus, then it's considered settled and you don't reopen it. And so warfare against unbelievers and the subjugation of unbelievers as inferiors under the rule of Islamic law is something that's taught by all the major sects, all the schools of law, and so it's not really open to question.
All right, so I spent 6.5 years in the Middle East and Africa, North Africa, Africa, East, West, didn't matter. I spent a lot of time there. And I've built strong relationships with Muslims. I've done dua, done prayer with Muslims. I've built relationships with people that I would trust implicitly that are Muslim. I like to call them my Muslim followers of Jesus. And because culturally you can't just turn a blind eye to your family and walk away from Islam. Can't. It's impossible. Right?
Well, it's not just culturally. In the Quran, it says if your father and your brother are not following Islam, then cut them off.
Yeah.
Hate, don't have anything to do with them. And it says that repeatedly. And so, yeah, it's not so easy. There's also a death penalty for apostasy in Islamic law. Muhammad said anybody who changes his religion, kill him. And so, yeah, it's virtually impossible to walk away.
So you can't walk away from it, but you can bring people, you can bring them to Jesus, right? And
within it.
At the same time, they're, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't feel like I am. I've been in really dangerous situations. I've been in really bad situations in Muslim countries, right? Where they want to eat me like a meat sandwich. They would cleaver my head off just as soon look at me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Truth, right? But I've been in other places where it was other Muslims that stood for me,
mm-hmm.
right? That acted as my brother. And there's a certain human nature to the goodness of a soul, like the goodness of a person.
Well, see, if there's a real God, and the real God created us all,
mm-hmm.
then if you have a book, a holy book, so-called, that teaches warfare, hatred, and supremacy, then there are going to be people who believe in it who are better than their book, better than their religion. And that is the case with many people in the Islamic world, that they are real nice guys or very loving and charitable people. And it is because this is something that comes from human nature, but it's not affirmed in the book. Just the opposite.
Okay, so then square this for me. I'm going to get in trouble. You're going to want to punch me through the screen. The Talmud and the Old Testament are, in some parts, barbaric. I mean, the Talmud's absolutely barbaric. Right? It says things that are taught in certain day schools that makes certain groups of Jews hate Christians and Muslims alike. And you could argue that the Old Testament, I mean, Leviticus, Exodus, Numbers, I mean, they're stoning you for something. I mean, it's no wonder you can't walk through the streets without getting stoned. So how do we square that with? I mean, even when people come to me and say it's in the Old Testament here, and I'm like, well, Jesus came to bring a new promise, and that's why we had the New Testament, right? That's why we have the Gospels. but how do we square up? If it almost feels like we're at conflict, or we don't want to have the conversation about some of the same things that we see. And by the way, I'm a Jewish Christian mutt, so my whole family is very mixed, which makes me very conflicted. But so how do we square that? How do we square the other side of this in the teachings of Judaism, the same as you would have in Islam?
Okay, let me give you an example. Just today, there was the Pakistani ambassador to the United Nations, and he was speaking at the UN Security Council, and he was complaining that they were putting out a list of terrorist groups, and every last one of them was Muslim.
Yeah.
And he was complaining, he was saying, this is Islamophobic. You guys are singling out Muslims. And what I thought was wild about it was, well, who does he think should be on the list? The fact is, there aren't any other terrorist groups.
Well,
You know? So you could talk about Judaism, and you could talk about the Talmud, and you can talk about the Old Testament. But the fact, and you can criticize the government of Israel, and we could have this conversation. But the fact is that there aren't armed groups of Jews going around killing people and shouting Hashem Akbar or something and saying that it's because of the religion. Whereas you do have 48,000, over 48,000 jihad terror attacks committed in the name of Islam and in accord with its teaching worldwide since 9/11.
hey, listen,
And
I
so
saw
that makes
a little boy blow himself up. So
yeah,
man,
well, that's
I've seen what radicalism can do to a brain. Right?
yeah,
And
that's specifically from the Quran, because the Quran promises paradise in only one place, chapter 9, verse 111, which says that a place in paradise is guaranteed to those who kill and are killed for Allah. They fight in the way of Allah, they kill and are killed. Now, they kill and are killed. How do you do that? You go to a crowd of infidels with a bomb strapped on you is one good way, and you blow it up, and then you get killed, but the infidels get killed. And so you get the promise. Now, see, this is very important, because if you believe in Islam,
he blew his pee off, so I don't know how he's going to have any fun up in.
yeah, it's true. It's physical paradise, and you got to be there physically. But we also are told that the whores, not whores, the whores, the virgins in paradise, they get turned on by if you're all bloody, if you show up all bloody.
That makes total sense.
Yeah,
not at all.
So they love that, and so it drives me wild.
I mean, some of it's kind of retarded, right? I mean, some of it's kind of retarded. You got to die to find out, and you got to blow up a bunch of people and act like a diabolical person. I mean, that should be the perfect. That should tell you everything you need to know about why you shouldn't be doing it, right? I mean, it's like, okay, so I got to kill a bunch of people.
Imagine if you took it seriously and didn't think it was ridiculous at all. And so you grow up in this society where the girls are all covered up and you can't get close to them. You'll get stoned to death.
It's a real thing.
And so you're a horny 15-year-old, and you hear, if you blow yourself up, then you go to this big bordello in the sky and stay there for all eternity. Many young men take this very seriously. And they think this is great.
This kid that blew himself up, I think, was like 9 or 10 or 11 or something.
Well, I don't know if he was motivated by that. Maybe somebody put him up to it. Maybe he was a precocious lad. I don't know. But I know that this is a huge appeal. There was a kid, he was 13, and he was going into Jerusalem with a bomb strapped on him, and the IDF found him and stopped him, and they have these machines, these robots that roll out and disarm somebody so that the soldiers themselves don't have to do it and get killed by the bomb exploding. And so the kid's standing there in his underwear with the bomb, and the machine is taking the bomb off him. And he's saying, how am I going to get to paradise now and get the virgins? He really believes it. It's a very big deal too, because there's so many descriptions in the Quran of hell and how you're going to get tortured in hell. You're going to drink molten lead. Allah's going to burn off your skin and then give you new skin so he can burn off that one too. And all these tortures that are described in tremendous detail in the Quran. And how do you get out of hell? How do you make sure you don't go to hell? You have to have good deeds that outweigh your bad deeds. Now, do you, Joe, know if your good deeds outweigh your bad deeds? You don't, because you don't know how much a deed weighs. And you don't know how many of each you've got. As Christians, we don't have to worry about that. But if you are a believing Muslim and you don't know and you think, I could go to hell, then you think, okay, what can I do to make sure I don't go to hell? Well, what's the promise? The promise is if you kill and are killed, you go to paradise. Guaranteed. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. So you go right to paradise. If you kill and are killed, you blow yourself up and you're in.
That sounds awful, actually. That doesn't sound, there's nothing appealing to that. I mean, it's
awful, but it's true. Everything I'm saying, you can check it out. It's 100% accurate.
Yeah, I mean, look, I look at things from a humanitarian perspective, and I've seen too much. I've seen kids die of the common cold, get run over by a train. I've seen kids blow themselves up. I've literally seen too much. I've seen too much, and I've seen the long arm of the U.S. government, which mostly the CIA and other operations that have destroyed the sovereignty of nations all over the world. So because I've seen all that, it makes it really difficult for me to have a very sinister approach towards a whole religion that encompasses a couple billion people on the planet.
Well, look at history. In all through history for 1400 years, the jihadis have been coming for the West.
Well, the Christian Crusaders did it too. I mean, they beheaded people like it was candy. They popped their head off, put it on sticks, and let the crows eat the eyes out.
The Crusades were a defensive action that lasted for 200 years.
Over 200 years.
And the overrunning of Europe. The jihad has been going on for 1400 years, has never been repudiated. Every Christian group has repudiated the Crusades. So it's not in the slightest degree equivalent. They're still doing these things. They're still coming. You could say, well, yes, but the U.S. is bad and the West is bad in these ways. Yes, that's what Christianity tells us in the doctrine of original sin. But that does not still mean that we are not facing an aggressive, expansionist, violent, and supremacist ideology that would subjugate us all. That is still also a fact.
All right, so let's talk about this. You believe in God?
Yep.
Yeah. You pray? I mean, it's a pretty personal question, but I'll ask it anyway.
I'm praying right now, Joe.
All right. What about the faithless, godless people that do really horrible things?
What about them?
Well, how do we handle that? How do we knowing what we know?
I don't know who you mean. It depends on what they're doing. If they come at me, if they come up to my office right now, then I might have to fight them off in some way. If they leave me alone, I'm probably not going to do anything to them either, because, for one thing, I'm an old guy and I'm not I'm not in a position to do anything about it.
Are you armed? Are you armed?
Am I armed? I don't know. I don't know if I should answer that.
I could get you armed. If you need a gun, I will send you a gun.
I appreciate that. We'll have to talk off the air.
So this is my struggle. I feel like I find myself, probably like most Americans or most people, conflicted.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I realize what you're saying now, that it might be that the jihadis will come and clean this filthy place up. And that's very good. That's like the book of Habakkuk in the Old Testament, where
no. See, I don't
raise up the Babylonians because you guys are so terrible. I'm going to raise up the Babylonians, a wicked and hasty nation, and they're going to clean you guys' filthy house up because you've made such a mess of everything. And
I mean, in large part, the New Testament does say that it will be a reckoning, right? And the second coming. And so it's, I don't think that's that there won't be I think there is going to be a purge of evil at some point.
Okay.
It happens every 400 or 500 years. I mean, no matter what's that.
So maybe they're the instruments of it.
No, I see. That's the problem. Is that I think that you could use that for justification to do horrible things.
Yeah.
But we look at our country from a lens that typically is very tribal. No matter who we are, we look at it from our angle. And I'm trying to stand right in the middle of it and go, all right, I can see the forest, I can see the trees. How do we stop what's happening in Dearborn and make people realize that this is not going to work? This goes against the ethos of our country. And then
There's no
also,
way
what's that?
The only way to do that is to convert them away from Islam, because otherwise they're going to think you have your American system and it's man-made, and our system comes from God, and thus ours is perfect and better, superior to yours. So why should we respect your laws when our laws are divine and yours are human? And as long as they believe that, they're going to keep acting the way they act.
Or violence. I mean, the other part is violence.
In their divine law. And so the violence is going to be part of that observance.
All right. So Dearborn is just a microcosm of what we can expect across the country. And you're saying there's nothing we can do to stop it?
Well,
we sit here and watch it?
Bringing in Muslims in large numbers. And you can say, well, but that would create humanitarian problems for people. And that's probably true. I don't know.
Why can't they clean up their countries, Robert? Why can't they clean up their countries?
I don't know why it's not a possibility to take in everybody with troubles. But
that
is that when we're talking about Muslims who believe in Sharia, Islamic law, we're talking about a radically different system of laws and values from the American system. And that's going to cause conflict. It has caused conflict in every country in the world so far that these people have come to. It's going to cause conflict in the United States. That is 100% certainty.
Okay,
and
Robert,
nothing done about it.
Robert, why would anyone want to live in a predominantly Christian country, a Judeo-Christian country? That's what we are. Yep. Why would anybody want to bring you already have a country that's Sharia, right? It's Sharia, whatever, compliant. Why would you want to come here to the United States in a place that's uncomfortable if it's not run by Sharia? Why would you not just want to clean up your act where you are?
Because of the same thing that makes people blow themselves up. The promise of paradise. Now, there's no promise.
Are we paradise then? Or is the U.S.?
No.
The U.S. paradise?
That's the opposite. There's no paradise promise in this verse, but listen to this. This is chapter 4, verse 100 of the Quran. Whoever emigrates for the sake of Allah and will find much refuge and abundance in the earth, and whoever forsakes his home, a refugee for Allah and his messenger, and death overtakes him, his reward is then obligatory upon Allah. So Allah's he's obliged to reward you if you leave your home for Allah. Leaving your home for Allah is not going to America to get a good job. It's going to America to Islamize it, to bring Islam to it. And that's the idea.
And aren't Christians going to the Middle East to Christianize the Middle East? So basically, if we just left each other alone, they could just have all they want, Sharia. They do whatever you want over there. Like, have blow up parties if you want. Go to, everybody. And
there's more though, because when they see chapter 9, verse 29 says that you fight the Jews and Christians, the people of the book, until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. The jizya is a tax. And historically, the Jews and Christians in Islamic societies paid it. And it's still part of Islamic law. And so there is no work ethic in Islam. It's not taught. It's obviously people work, but it's not taught that work is a good thing in itself. As you find in Christianity, people will say, God will bless the work of your hands, and so on. There's no idea of that in Islam. It's actually kind of shameful to have to work rather than have Jews and Christians who work and give you their money. And so it creates a kind of a shark of a culture that has to keep moving and keep eating or die. And so it has to conquer the next infidel land, make those people pay the jizya. When they're exhausted and impoverished, then you conquer the next land.
Yeah, you have Jews in Iran that have to pay the jizya today to this day.
Well, see, they're an Islamic republic. And so they follow this down the line.
All right. Now I've got some harder questions for you that just blow my mind.
Okay.
Mamdani.
Yep. What about him?
How in the world do Christians, even anyone, Jews, how are they supporting this clown? I'm sorry, but how?
Well, he's being sold like soap flakes. He's being packaged and presented as the next big thing. He says he's just for the people. He's for the common people. He's for you and me, Joe. He's looking out for the working. That's what he's all about, and that's what he said. He's really a communist, but he's packaging himself as the guy who's not the candidate of billionaires, the sleazy, corrupt Andrew Cuomo. He's the guy that's looking out for us. And it's resonating. He's got a big lead.
He's a massive Islamist.
Yeah.
Massive. Like you want to talk about a guy that would probably blow himself up if he thought he could get in, he would. Although he wouldn't want any virgins, he just wanted a bunch of dudes there because he's gay. But I mean, I mean, sorry, I just tried to.
He got married. He had 3 wedding receptions. He's very rich too. He's a multimillionaire socialist, and so he had a wedding reception in New York, one in Dubai, and one in Kampala, Uganda.
He married a dude, right?
No, he married an Arab lady from Dubai.
That dude he is gayer than a $3 bill, huh?
Maybe she's a beard, but he did marry.
So I mean I look at this and we, look, I don't think that I think there are a ton of Muslim followers of Jesus. I think there are a ton of people that would call themselves Christian. I probably would say half a billion people of the 2 billion people are just redeemably amazing individuals. And I can tell you that for a fact because my life was saved more than a few times, right? And as a guy that went over there just to try and do good, and I didn't work for the government, and got to see some of the corruption on the United States side that made my stomach turn. But I do wonder how in the United States, Christians and Muslims would stand up people that they know, or Christians and Jews would stand up people that they know are fundamentally problematic.
What do you mean stand up? What do you
They would support like Ilhan Omar, and I mean,
yeah. I don't get it. It shows that leftism is their real religion, and that's their real value system. And so they see these people are fellow leftists, but I don't think they realize how much it's going to come back and bite them.
Okay, what does bite them look like? I mean, if you had to warn them, pick one book that I can read, by the way, they can go through this for me so I can order it right after the show. If you could warn people on what's about to happen, and here are the things that you need to look for, what would those things be? Like how would you put a stop to this or wake people up, shake them?
Well, in New York, he's saying we're going to have low-priced grocery stores where instead of all the greedy capitalists getting profits, we're going to establish government grocery stores. Well, that just means that you pay for the groceries through your taxes instead of at the grocery store itself. It does not mean you get free stuff, but people don't think this through. And they think, oh, only the rich billionaires are going to have to pay. No, it's going to be ordinary people paying prohibitive tax rates. And the thing is that in socialist states, they built walls around the place so people couldn't escape. And then they had to pay the tax rates and they had to do the work. But in New York, it's still part of the United States, at least so far. And so people are just going to move. And then there's going to be economic collapse in New York. That's what we're looking at in the very near future.
Okay, so it collapses and then they have another election and they say, now I'm going to come in and fix it, to perpetuate the problem, right?
Yeah, because they'll elect other socialists because they're idiots.
They are idiots, but I think there's a bigger problem. We have, and I said this to begin with, we have a judiciary that is rotted to the core. We have judges in our country that in large part, I had dinner with 2 lawyers last night, 2 lawyers, husband and wife, amazing people. I'm sorry?
I just said, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I have way too many lawyer friends, which right now I probably need. But what's that?
You know what Shakespeare said?
Oh, all too well.
Yes. I don't
Um,
even want to read it because, you know, they'll shut your channel down or whatever. But anyway,
they've shut my channel down like 100 times. Matter of fact, they've
yeah.
canceled me from every platform. But I asked them the question. I go, and I said the same thing, and I talked to all my attorney friends, and she turns around and says, Joe, it's really hard because every time I meet with a new client, I have to tell them, I'm sorry, but I have no idea what the outcome of this will be because I do not trust the system. It is that
Mhm.
bad.
Yep.
And imagine that we're having this conversation about a judiciary that is filled with some of the most rotten, demonic, corrupt, uh, criminal people in the world. And they rub each other's backs, and they do so on politics, not based on what's right or wrong for the American people. And normally you could get to the bottom of what was happening in Dearborn or in New York or things like that if you had a fairer system that operated off of what was foundationally constitutionally acceptable. We don't
Mhm.
have that anymore. So it's a lawless society. So are we looking at, I mean, you said in the near future for New York City, I like to say how New York goes, so goes the world. So goes the country anyway. Um, does that then lead us into a place of absolute destruction and despair across the country?
Yeah, I think that's very possible. I mean, you got Trump on the one hand, you got Mamdani on the other. Who's going to win? I don't know. We'll see.
I mean,
I don't mean win an election, obviously. I
well,
mean win the war for the culture in the country.
so I got yelled at by my friend who is a rabbi, and he was yelling at me because I was like, "What they're doing in Gaza is absolute horrendous." And he
Yeah, I
called me.
think that's a lot of BS too.
Hold
I'm with
on,
the
hold
rabbi.
on, hold on a second. This is interesting because I think part of being a good person is that you have to hear perspective, and that
Okay.
if you recognize a lack of humanity on one side or the other, you get emotionally attached to it on both sides. Okay, and so he's been my friend for a long time, and he called me up and he starts cursing at me, which is the first sign for he's pissed because he never curses.
Mhm.
And he's like, Joe, we're meeting, we're gonna have coffee. And he wouldn't hug me when he met me. He was so angry at me. And
Mhm.
then he gave me perspective. And I was like, listen, I I understand your perspective, but 40,000 women and children died. He goes, okay,
Yeah, who says
hold
Hamas?
on. Yeah, yeah. But so he gave me that perspective as well. And so then I started doing research and making phone calls and doing everything else. And now I find myself in this place where again I'm conflicted. I'm conflicted by here was what I believed before. Why? Because I trust him. Because this man is my friend. He's been my he was the first one to stand up for me in 2020, right? And was right next to me. Every time I had a problem when I came back from a Middle Eastern country, I would go meet with him.
Mhm.
And he's like, "Well, that's not true. And you need to check this out. You need to check this out." And so, but I find myself conflicted with people dying and looking at rubble and pictures of what's happening in Gaza. And then
You
I
ever heard of
and then I get
Pallywood?
what's that?
You ever heard of Pallywood?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They're very sophisticated at faking this stuff. I mean, obviously, you've seen that the starving children pictures that were out on the New York Times and CNN and everywhere else were actually every last one of them pictures of children with diseases. And now, not a single picture of a legitimately starving person has yet been produced.
Which leads me to if I'm a guy that can operate with restraint, get really pissed off about what's happening, because I did. I got really pissed off. But then I always say to myself, never stand on the side of the devil ever, right? Not even for a minute. It doesn't matter if it's Trump saying it or Biden or anyone else. Once I know for a fact something is not right, I can't stand on it, right? And so then I'm like, well, I'm standing on the side of radical leftists that are saying this stuff. I really probably should look into this.
You ever heard of
So-
Colonel Richard?
so- but most people, Robert, don't do that.
Yes.
Most people don't go through that process, right?
Propaganda is very powerful and it works. Anyway, look into Colonel Richard Kemp, who's a British colonel, and John Spencer, who is a professor at West Point. and they have both studied what's really happening in Gaza, and they will tell you what is really happening beyond the propaganda.
I thought I'd just get on a plane and go there because I might.
Okay.
I might just get on a plane.
I don't know if you get in because it's a war zone. It's restricted.
Yeah. I wanted some virgins anyway, so I figured maybe I'd just go there and you gotta have a little bit of a sense of humor about these things. What's that?
Got to go to paradise for that. They're not in Gaza.
It's not. It's the wrong type of sand.
Yeah.
Okay, are you concerned that Sharia might be implemented in communities like everywhere? That we might have this slow boil?
Oh, I don't have any doubt. The idea of concentrating the Muslim population in these areas like Dearborn is to create an enclave where Sharia can be enforced. And then those grow, and the larger society decreases, and ultimately Sharia is all we got. That's the overall plan. Do I think that they're going to get there? Probably not. But is there going to be a lot of conflict along the way? Absolutely.
How do we stop the terrorists that got into the United States over the last 4 years?
Well, we got to stop bringing them in and throw out the ones that are here.
Throw out or throw off the top of a building?
Deport.
Whichever works, whichever one gets there the fastest. That's
Yes.
the top of the building. All right. So what book would you have me read? I mean, from this point, I know Shakespeare. I study history. I love history. You've written a lot of
Read the
books.
history of jihad.
I'm sorry?
Read the history of jihad.
The History
That's
of Jihad.
probably my best book.
Guys, give me that book, please. Write it down. The History of Jihad.
History of jihad.
You know, I had someone else on. You know, the conflict for me is standing on the side of a football team. Like, am I for Israel? Am I against Israel? I'm not for either one. I'm for humanity. But then, do I have to pick a side? Because I think I do. And then, can I isolate Gaza versus what I saw in the Middle East, in Syria, in Libya, and Sudan, and all this other stuff? And then, how do I isolate the experiences that I've had? I mean, I got to tell you, they lied to us about Darfur. There was never any ethnic cleansing or genocide that existed there. It never happened, right? They lied to us about Iraq. They lied to us about Afghanistan. They lied to us about what happened in Libya. They lied to us. I mean, they just keep lying. They lie about everything. And then I keep going, well, you know, how do we get to the bottom? Why has nobody's been held accountable for lying? We never get any sort of, and then the border was open. You got millions of people that came across it. And then you have COVID, and then you have the Ukrainian deal, which I can't stand for that either. And then you got all this stuff that I'm like, no. And so how do you square it? Right? How do you trust that the United States is on the right side when I've seen so much of them being on the wrong?
I would never trust that. I don't support Israel because the United States does. It has nothing to do with that whatsoever. I actually wrote a book about it that also, The Palestinian Delusion, you could read. It's insofar as the United States is in it at all, it's only screwing up.
Yeah, so I've been to Israel, and I've been to Gaza. I've been to the West Bank. I've been to Jordan. I've been to all the Palestinian camps. I've been to all of them. I've been to Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Lebanon, you name it, I've been there. And there's a ton of turmoil. But my problem is the United States doesn't tell the truth. So then where do we derive our truth from? When do we know they're telling the truth and not telling the truth? And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the public. Because now the public has to pick a side.
I wouldn't trust anything they say. I'm not here to say you should trust what the United States tells you. I've never said anything like that.
Yeah.
You have to just try to figure it out through various means and understand what you're dealing with. Like when you're reading Al Jazeera, it's one experience, and when you're reading Reuters, it's another, and when you're reading the New York Times, it's a third, and understand the perspectives of the source you're dealing with. And through all that, you can try to piece together what's really going on.
It's a lot. I think it's a lot for most people, but now
Yeah.
more than ever because our
And
population is.
read Ahlobait and Tasnim and all the
Tasnim.
Iranian news agencies and get their perspective as well.
I spent a lot of time looking at alternatives. I will tell you that I gave up on New York Times a long time ago.
Well, that's good.
Robert, it's been great to have you on. I will read your book and have you back on so that we can have another discussion about it.
Okay.
But yeah, thanks for coming on. And I think that, how do people follow you?
I'm at jihadwatch.org. That's a news site about jihad activity, updated many times daily. Jihad Watch RS on Twitter.
All right, awesome. Thanks for coming on. I do appreciate it. And I'm going to read your book.
Okay.
And actually, Rabbi literally told me, he's like, Joe, by the time I was done with him, I actually felt like I was an idiot. So I kind of feel like I've learned a lot with you as well. But I'll read your book first and then come back to you.
Okay. I look forward to it.
All right. God bless you.
Thanks, Joe. You too.
We always talk about perspective. I see you guys in the comments talking about, see, Joe, you need to have him on. Jeff, of course, loves this guy. So I was sitting here watching him. There's a conflict. Good people have conflicts in their hearts and they try to read and understand what's in front of them. And I'm no different. And when you've seen as much death, destruction, and controversy and deception that we've all seen, but when you see it up front and personal over even the last 5 years, just take everything else. And if you were asleep and you saw it over the last 5 years, you would come to the same conclusion. We're going to go to a commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to be joined by Dr. Malone. And he's an author, a doctor. He's an inventor of DNA vaccines. He's a research contributor. He has been vilified during COVID. He stood up when most people would sit down. He's been on here before. And frankly, he's been vilified almost recently. They've called him everything. CIA, Mossad. They have made up more stuff about Dr. Malone. I kind of feel like he's like the William Wallace. He's 7 feet tall and spits fire from his eyes. Well, that's kind of the same thing. Only he's been just trying to give people a little bit of a dose of reality amongst all the propaganda. So we got lots of questions. And we're gonna talk about what's happening with Bobby Kennedy and some of the things that happened with COVID. And then we're just going to talk about truth. Like, what is the truth? Because so much of what we hear isn't. And so much of the time we're left in a place where we just can't figure it out. So hopefully we get some clarity today. We'll go to a commercial break and then we'll be right back. Hey, real quick. Did you know thousands of Americans are jumping on the #1 precious metal offer in the country right now? If you've got $50,000 or more saved for retirement, you could qualify for an exclusive offer from Goldco. We're talking about up to 10% back in bonus silver just for taking action to protect your savings. This isn't one of those sketchy free gold deals with a bunch of strings attached. Nope. When they say 10% back in bonus silver, they actually mean 10% back. No gotchas, no fine print to trick you, just your 10%. Plus, they have first-class customer service and a great buyback program. There's a reason why Goldco has won a bunch of awards. They're the real deal. So call 844-960-GOLD. That's 844-960-4653. Or you can visit untamedgold.com. You'll get a free 2025 gold and silver kit and learn more about how you can get 10% while also helping to protect your savings. It's a win-win, but supplies are limited, so please don't wait. Call Goldco at 844-960-4653 or visit untamedgold.com. That's 844-960-GOLD or untamedgold.com. In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle. All right. So I'm watching the comments and what you guys have said prior to this. I will tell you that my problem with demonizing 2.5 billion people is that it just doesn't come natural for me, nor will it. And I have a certain amount of loyalty to people that I carry with me. I think that's important. So our next guest probably doesn't need a whole lot of introduction. Most of you have followed him in the past and still follow him. Dr. Malone, Robert Malone. So we're going to go ahead and bring him on. And I got lots of questions. Dr. Malone, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Thanks for having me on. It's good to meet you, and a pleasure and an honor to have a chance to interact with both you and your audience.
Yeah, you've been around for, 2020 kind of put you in a major spotlight, and with it came a whole lot of criticism. So how do you what would you describe the deep state and what it's done over the last 5 years?
So there's a lot of terms around. That's kind of a cloud of ideas around that terminology, deep state. And there's the administrative state, the deep state, the intelligence community, the kind of Council on Foreign Relations, and the you could make Venn diagrams, or you could map this as planets and satellites or whatever. But you're referring to a matrix of interlaced relationships and interests that extend globally. And they certainly have a strong component in what Steve likes to refer to as the imperial capital of the world, Washington, D.C. There's no question that there are, at least in my mind, that there are cabals that operate in various spheres, including in various scientific spheres and in medicine, and they have overlap and intersections with a variety of interests, foreign relations interests, foreign affairs, military interests, geopolitical strategic interests, and of course commercial interests such as the biopharmaceutical industry, and interests relating to academia. And a lot of these now have come to use a variety of different ways to exert power on the world, power and influence. And in your prior segment, you were decrying and mourning, really, the loss of integrity and commitment to fundamental truth, or some semblance of truth, on the part of these of various groups that represent or claim to represent the interests of the United States government, and by extension the populace of the United States. And when we talk about the deep state, this is a group of these organizational relationships and interests that have human beings associated with them that in many cases have a strong component within DC, but reach out geopolitically, internationally, and have sockets with a variety of really, truly, deeply globalist committed organizations. And a number of those have become very apparent to those that are listening and watching, such as, for instance, the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, the World Health Organization, and many others. So that's a long-winded way of saying talking about the deep state is like talking about Jello. It's you know it when you see it, but it's hard to put your arms around it.
So it's an enigma of sorts. It kind of just floats around a little bit. You were the inventor of the mRNA technology, correct?
So when I say that, what I'm referring to is I was the original inventor in that I wrote the first invention disclosures, filed the first patents, a number of which are behind me as issued patents that have all expired. And it isn't to say that other people didn't have inventive contributions. It isn't to say that I had anything to do with the development of these specific vaccines for which the Nobel Prize was awarded, not for the technology, but for those vaccines. It's not to in any way diminish contributions of others, but when I wrote those invention disclosures, nobody else was thinking along those lines. Nobody else had those ideas. Nobody else realized that, at least in the form of any tangible object, that mRNA in particular, and RNA in general, represented a new drug category, and that it could be employed as an alternative non-viral gene therapy strategy that would overcome some of the inherent problems associated with the gene therapy strategies of the time, and that it could be dosed like a drug, and that the low-hanging fruit, the easiest application for this tech in terms of realizing a product would be to use it for the purpose of vaccination.
And I think that's one of the things you said in 2021 is that this is a mistake to go this direction. And, prior to that, I mean, I think you had a pretty good relationship with, pharma organizations. But soon after that, the attacks on you became pretty relentless. I mean,
the truth is that I've always kind of operated behind the scenes. I've worked with many different companies. I did produce. I was funded at a good hourly rate to do a very deep dive into a body of data that was obtained during discovery in the case of Kraline versus Merck, having to do with the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, particularly the mumps component. And that was a whistleblower case. I was brought in as kind of the primary expert witness. There were other reports that were derivative of mine. But what I found was profoundly eye-opening for me. And that report really shook a lot of people up. So, in a sense, what took place starting in 2020 really had an antecedent back in 2018, 2019 with that court case that many people that are familiar with it assert that my expert witness testimony is probably the most damning document about the vaccine industry that's out there right now. So that certainly didn't win me friends at Merck. But, on the counterpoint to that is that when I was supporting New Link Genetics with their Ebola vaccine candidate, that was kind of the dark horse during the initial Ebola outbreak, and the senior leadership I was right at the tip of the spear, on point, leading that, facilitating that, speaking at the World Health Organization, et cetera, on that at a very tense time. And my senior leadership at New Link Genetics decided they didn't want to carry that vaccine forward. They wanted to sell it to some larger vaccine manufacturer. And I directly solicited Merck as the best candidate and ended up getting it sold off to Merck and getting federal funds for them to further develop it. It's now the licensed Ebola vaccine. So, it's not that I hate Merck, I've done them favors in the past, but they're another, the whole industry has a certain ethic, and the government partners, let's say, to that industry. And I have to be careful what I say. I was just reprimanded in a teleconference earlier today for speaking ill of in public of a certain agency. There's a whole interlaced network. You talk about deep state of interests in the vaccine industry that I've long been aware of. I've lived under the shadow of Tony Fauci my entire professional life. I cut my teeth on the very earliest days in AIDS research.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, and what you just brought up is really important because you're working inside that government apparatus now, and you get reprimanded for talking about another part of the agency, and it's a fine line. You don't you don't want to create a lack of credibility in other agencies when you're working inside of that structure to make things better. But at the same time, there's this propensity to not be truthful. Not that you're not being truthful, but
I thank you for saying that. It is such a fine line. To illustrate it, I was on Steve Bannon's show with Natalie as the host months and months ago, and she asked me a question about the then nominees for various second and third tier political appointment positions. And I wasn't being vetted for anything. I didn't want to take an administrative position, but I certainly didn't want to aggravate Susie Wiles or President Trump or Secretary Kennedy, who I consider to be a friend. So I got put on point about what do I think about these various appointments. And frankly, there's a little bit of dead time there where I'm kind of the wheels are turning, and I'm processing the fact that my brand is essentially speaking truth. Speaking truth to power, being open and transparent, saying what I think, and the need to pull my punches and not alienate Susie Wiles, using her name as an example.
Yeah, as an example.
Because the president and his team are very sensitive to social media communications.
I know.
So I had to. She put me on the spot, and I had to be truthful. I didn't come out and use strong language about those opinions, but I made them clear. And it's a tough position to navigate. I'm not complaining, but it's the opportunity and the burden that I've been given is to be thrust into this position of prominence. I didn't seek it, and have people seeking, such as yourself, my opinion about things, and needing to be open, transparent, and honest with them about what I'm observing in the world, and the need to be politically aware of the consequences of things that I might say. The other day, I was on Rav Ora's podcast, just to illustrate the point. And Rav asked me a specific question. I'm not going to name the name about a particular influencer physician that had said some very inflammatory things about the secretary and others. And I made the comment that she's come off the rails. Well, Rav's that broadcast just posted, and that particular person just sent me a set of withering text messages and has posted on their X account and what a bad person I am, and they've attacked Rav, and it kind of proved my point that in fact they have come off the rails. They can't control their own emotions, but that's the environment we're in. I was just talking to a reporter a moment ago about the challenges of in modern media right now of these extremely fast news cycles.
Well, the dangers of that is it creates heat, and that hotness it has a tendency to move into violence, right? So on any side, I mean, you can create a very hot situation. We saw this in Benghazi. We saw it overseas. We saw it in Europe, in the UK. I mean, you've seen it everywhere, right? And so
they're
the problem
crazy
with
people.
yeah,
Like
with the,
you might have some crazy young man decide to open fire on, let's say, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention.
I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to ask next because, our favorite friend, Senator Blumenthal, just came out and used you as a punching bag, and he wants you fired.
Yeah, and I have, this is not narcissistic, but it's monitoring the internet. So I have Google Alerts pigged for my name, and I get the pings from these various, kind of second tier roll up smear pieces that are being put out based on the senator's ire and his representation. When he first put that out, there was the implication that somehow either I was responsible for this young man. The storyline before that attack was that Bobby was responsible for this young man.
Yep.
Losing his sense of appropriateness, but then it was me, and somehow I was guilty of the pre-crime of having posted a meme as one of about 20 or 25 I do every Friday and Sunday on our Substack. And one of those was a metaphor for random chance with extreme consequences, which was a revolver with one bullet in the chamber. And as I recall, it said something like 5 out of 6 scientists agree Russian roulette is safe. So somehow the senator found that offensive and tied somehow to the CDC attack because I serve on the ACIP. But and he sent it on letterhead of the Senate Subcommittee on Investigations to the secretary that I should be fired for this. And he seemed to not, whoever the aide was that put that thing together, didn't seem to process the fact that those memes had gone out at 10:30 in the morning and the attack happened at 5 p.m. the same day. And then he also criticized our Sunday strip because we had 2 memes that were, we cluster memes that we find around political topics. And one of the topics examined that day was Elizabeth Warren's statement that you don't need 20 rounds to shoot a deer or go hunting, or you're a bad hunter if you do. And that provoked
You are a bad hunter if you need 20 rounds.
And so he, the issue was really Senator Warren's statement and Senator Warren and Senator Blumenthal's opposition to the Second Amendment. That's the real topic. And then the other thing, so I sent it off to Senator, I immediately when I heard that he had gone on MSNBC, Morning Joe, I think it was, and was attacking me and calling for my resignation, saying I was unqualified, etc. Well, one of the things was I sent my CV to his aides. I don't think he has any idea what my background is. A case can be made that I'm the most qualified of the current ACIP members. But I
Well,
then
he didn't just
contacted the secretary, and I contacted
he didn't just
the,
call for your Dr. Malone. He didn't just call for your removal. He actually called for the reinstatement of 17 other scientists to replace you.
yeah, that's a common theme that's being pushed by pharma, and they were removed because of kind of the chronic culture of conflict of interest, and that was the secretary's choice. But when I communicated with Senator Johnson, because he's the chair of this committee and he's a friend, he said, "Well, send me what you posted." So I sent him the Substack, and he looked through it, and his first comment was, "Well, you can't be a Democrat because you have a sense of humor." And then his comment was, "Oh, I see what triggered him. It's this meme down here that's got a picture of him attacking Janine Pirro as a conspiracy theorist. And then in the sidebar, there's somebody asking whether Pirro has misrepresented her service in Vietnam." And that was Senator Johnson's interpretation. That was really what triggered Senator Blumenthal. But then this, this is information warfare.
But it's also these people, and I say these people, these radical. I have Democrat friends, and they're reasonable people. I don't find any of the leadership, Blumenthal probably one of the worst, that are reasonable people. They're children.
Well, and the ones that are picking up, think about the subtext, and this is what we said, we put out in a response Substack that same day. That was a little complicated, but we got it done. Myself and my wife, Dr. Jill Glassman. But one of the key points is that this is wokeism. Okay. Oh my God, you've shown a picture. I mean, there was one article, I had to laugh. One article in some Seattle outlet that said, "Good heavens," paraphrasing, "Dr. Malone has posted a picture of a machine gun." Well, technically, actually, it was a sniper rifle. Okay, guys, it was not a machine gun. So whoever it was that looked at that and wrote that had no clue what they were talking about. But the culture is constantly bombarded with images of weapons and shooting and murder through video games, every single channel. You turn on the TV, whatever's on Netflix, it's constant violence all the time, 24/7. And yet, oh my God, the snowflakes say, Dr. Malone posted a picture of a gun. And he did it 2 days after some crazy young man shot up the CDC, and therefore he must be ridiculed, exiled. I don't, whatever the punishment is, and including fired from a job, which he is volunteering at, and working on behalf of the government without pay. It's just. Oh, and the other attack line, I could have kissed him for this. Senator Blumenthal said, "Dr. Malone is far right extreme MAGA," and I was like, "Yeah, let's go."
But you're like, next, and what would be your point of that? Yes.
Yeah. Well, how does it have any relevance? Yeah. So he's far right. Dr. Malone is far right extreme MAGA, and he has the vaccine opinions of far right extreme MAGA. Okay, so that gets back to the whole logic that was documented in one of the House investigations that the justification for the censorship that was implemented against me by CISA was that based on a jury ticket tracking, that I had two sins identified by the federal government that justified their heavy-handed censorship. One was that I'm an anti-vaxxer. I'm the vaccine-developing anti-vaxxer. And the other was that I was conservative.
Oh no!
Those were my specific sins that justified the censorship, as
Are you-
documented
Are you
by
Catholic at least?
investigation in the House.
Are you Catholic?
No, I was raised Episcopalian, but I
Okay,
am
well,
religious.
That's pretty close. That's pretty close. We could have you do a couple Hail
It's
Marys.
wannabe. It's wannabe woke Catholic. Not that Catholic is woke now.
the look, I'm going to tell you right now. I followed all of your work. You actually have been on when it was Conservative Daily way back in the day, and I'm the guy that, frankly, they came to my house, tried to kill my wife and kids, and do lots of harm to me. So I had personal security detail for 18 months. But I've called for, I don't want to say I called for violence. I just said, look, if you come for my family, I'm going to take you all out. And so they wrote an article about that, but ignored the fact that they came and attacked my family and said, oh, you're MAGA and you're this and you're that and you're conservative. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, and I like the Steelers. Like I just don't know how people attach that stuff to that you're bad.
It's
almost like this.
It's all weaponized information warfare and
language.
We have to just get used to it, and that's hence the book, right? Here, shameless plug. Cywar. What is a physician scientist doing writing about fifth generation warfare and psychological warfare? Well, because I'm trying to make sense out of what I've experienced over the last 4 going on 5 years now, and what I've observed, hoping that I can help other people to understand what's going on and how this tech is being used to manipulate their own emotions and thoughts and beliefs and worldview. And we can't. One of the things that I feel really strongly about is you can't self-define or allow yourself to be defined as a victim.
Absolutely.
That's what they do. The left and the woke is all about self-victimization. I refuse to play into that. They're playing hardball. I figured out they were playing hardball in particular right after the Rogan hit. And I said, okay, if that's the way you're going to play, then it's game on, and I'm going to throw myself into it and build a studio and do podcasts and broadcasts and go on alternative media and write a Substack and have an active X account, a Twitter account, et cetera, et cetera. If mainstream media is going to play nasty like that, then I'm going to punch back.
And you should. And you should punch back.
Yeah.
And this becomes my issue is when the truth becomes a lie and the lie becomes a truth. I just ordered your book just now while you were talking. My fear is that we no longer are focused on truth. It's all interests. And
it's feelings.
Yeah.
So we now live in a post-truth environment, and it is reinforced through all kinds of channels. I was just 2 days ago at a pastor's conference down on the James River here in Virginia, talking about exactly this, about what's happened in the churches in the United States during COVID, and surveillance capitalism and that whole business model, and touching on fifth generation warfare. And then I talked about Maha. But we're in an environment in which truth has been reduced to a response to emotions. Truth is what you believe it to be. It's what you feel it to be. That's what's behind a lot of the transsexual movement. A lot of these things, the gender reassignment initiatives, the thesis that there is no truth. Truth is entirely subjective, and it's whatever you feel it is at the time. This is just a core tenet of wokeism, and it's enormously destructive.
Yeah, Dr. Malone, it hasn't stopped.
Why
though.
study mathematics? This is the 2 + 2 = 5.
Well,
So we can't live. We can't have a society in which there are no fundamental truths and there are no bedrock ethics. It'll all fall apart as it's falling apart, and that is the essence of MAGA as opposed to MAHA. As far as I'm concerned, is fighting back against that logic and insisting that no, there are fundamental truths. There is fundamental right and wrong. There are measurable realities in the world, and we need to be grounded in those rather than in some sense of theoretical DEI and ESG and these various social, basically Marxist constructs.
So, we see this not just in big pharma or in the medical field. We see it in the justification of letting millions of people come across the border. We got to give them opportunities. And we have this, and it becomes pervasive. And you could argue that the election system, actually, I would argue the election system is run by an algorithm that was designed by one person that I've traced all the way back, and now I have all the math. It's funny you said math. Math is the fundamental point of correlation to causation. I just need peer review and for us to be able to make it repetitive across the board. And I have something that can actually tie those together. So I've been able to do that, and you've been able to do that when you talk about what happens with science. And the same thing can be said for the correlation between letting people cross the border and all the violent crime we have in the United States. And I mean, everything seems to match up, but you still have this wokeism, this DEI that is so pervasive. They're still going. The Mamdani and the others like him, they're still in the companies. I know it,
right? Thank you, Senator Blumenthal, for that demonstration.
But we keep debating the ridiculous, and I'm trying to figure out why. How could there be? Is it the media? Is the media so captured that that now it's and that's the only. But then you have to tie it back to something bigger, which means you have to tie it back to our intelligence community, because that means the CIA is behind it. Because
are you familiar with the term advocacy journalism?
I am, yes.
Okay, so advocacy journalism is a euphemism for propaganda, full stop. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Just call it what it is. It's if you teach advocacy journalism in your journalism school, which most of them do now.
Almost all of them.
You're teaching propagandists. You're creating propagandists. You're training propagandists. That's what you're doing, to be quite clear. This is why Epoch Times has had to create their own journalism school. So who funded the movement towards advocacy journalism? We tracked that down. We've documented in our books. We've documented on Substack. We've documented the specific grants. And the answer is a lot of the initial funding came from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Yes.
So there's, we can go down the list of players that are capitalizing these initiatives that are twisting truth and twisting reality and graduating a whole cohort of, really now generations of journalists and young people in general that have been coached in this logic that we call wokeism, or we call social Marxism. And it's been a intentional strategy. And so it basically foments, you'll recall back in the day, I talked about Matthias Desmet and mass formation. And I also talked about groupthink. We have a situation in which corporate media has financial incentives through its advertising base, and particularly the pharmaceutical advertising base, to not bite the hand that feeds it, of course. And it's backed by a culture that has been taught to their staffing that we call journalists in the various journalism schools that is intrinsically social Marxist. And that's what we get is this advocacy, journalism, propaganda. And by the way, Operation Mockingbird never went away.
No, it's still here.
Yeah. So the
Still
role of the deep state, intelligence community, Council on Foreign Relations, whatever you want to call it, it's all still there. It was always, the Church Commission kind of pulled its punches about the role of Mockingbird in academia. These folks are integrated throughout society. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a fact, well-documented fact. And they believe that it's necessary and appropriate to shape what we all think. And it's in the national interest, well, whatever the national interest is. I heard you in the prior segment bemoaning what's happened to American foreign policy and the integrity thereof, or the lack of. But that's been the case for decades and decades. It's just that the tech has gotten really good.
Yeah. No,
and
you're right. You're
the
absolutely
ability
right.
to shape reality through the use of algorithms, internet, artificial intelligence, Wikipedia, all those things, that has been strategically and tactically developed over decades. And USAID played a big role in that. So it's good that we've kind of taken that out largely.
Well, that was the CIA's haven, though. That's where they hung out.
Well,
So that was their black money
I like
ops.
the Mike Benz quote on this, that stuff that was too dirty for the CIA, they gave to USAID. But that's, we actively use, people, I've written about this repeatedly, including in the books. Twitter and Facebook were created not as cool social media tools, they were weapons.
Yep.
They are weapons.
DARPA.
And they were deployed very effectively during Arab Spring and continue to be used to shape opinion globally. The UK government, through its 77th Brigade and Mutton Crew and other operations, pulls no punches. They believe that nudge and shaping of opinions is absolutely what they should be doing. This is all wrapped around the idea of changing human nature, building a new society. This is the New World Order logic, that if we control information and thought, it's very Orwellian, then we can refashion the nature of man, eliminate war, eliminate disparities and conflict and all this kind of wouldn't it be nice kind of stuff that is always the justification for creeping authoritarianism. But that's what we're dealing with. I mean, we can't shirk from recognizing how serious the situation is. And
Yeah,
we have to fight these kinds of manipulations with truth. I mean, the good news is that through podcasts and alternative media, we're now entering into, and really already well into, a period where reputation, they refer to it as a reputation economy, where your reputation as a purveyor of truth and insight is a commodity. It can be monetized, but it's a personal asset. Your reputation is a personal asset that you can choose to degrade by selling to the highest bidder sponsorships or tweets or whatever it is that you want to do if you're an influencer, or you can continue to speak your truth, even though it isn't always as financially lucrative as it might be to be sponsored by Pfizer.
Yeah. So that that's always been the kind of the dilemma that we find ourselves in, is that can we step away from the financial gains? Most of the news sites are they run Pfizer, and all those guys run commercials, and it's not like they get any customers off of it, but it ties the media up into doing what they want to and giving a spin or perspective that favors them.
Yep. And one of our secret weapons in alt media or new media is that our cost of production is a tiny fraction of what the traditional corporate media has. So our burn rate is tiny. I like to say, and this is not bragging, but our Substack hits about the same audience historically as CNN does in terms of views. And we're doing it with basically 3 people: myself, my wife, and an associate. So our overhead is way, way down. So we can afford to basically micro-target. I don't need to have a large subscriber base. Our subscriber base of 12 to 13,000 at $5 to $6 a month is plenty. It takes care of us, takes care of our costs, and the costs of the folks that work with us. And there's no way that CNN or the Washington Post or the New York Times or whatever can operate with that kind of overhead.
Yeah. So that makes you more free. And I think that becomes the key to all of this. I want to ask you about a Substack article that I finished reading before I did the show. And that's the one about the mRNA or the RNA and pesticides, and kind of and I know I only have it for another 7 minutes or 6 minutes or so. But we have senators that are supporting indemnifying people or the companies from.
So thanks for bringing that up. This is the issue here, and this is the, I think, 3rd article we put out relating to this indemnification bill.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a member of the House that is trying to insert language in the latest appropriations bill that is very carefully worded. It's asserted to be backed by Bayer, which is the basically Monsanto parent company that produces Roundup and glyphosate. But it also appears to have an advocate for this congressperson from, there we have his name.
Idaho, Mike Simpson.
Idaho.
Yeah.
And so when I saw him being a big advocate for this insertion of an indemnification bill, I should give your listeners that aren't up on the latest lingo, legal lingo. Indemnification is what happened with the vaccine industry years ago under Ronald Reagan, where there was a decision. Basically, the industry metaphorically, went to the president and said, we're losing our shirt based on legal liability claims for our actions, for the damages done by our products. And we're going to have to stop making those products. And it will be on your head, Mr. President Reagan, that there will be millions and millions of dead children that because they did not receive vaccines, because we had to withdraw from the market because of the liability that we're facing. And the only way we're going to stay in the game. So it's basically, nice country you have there, President. It would be a shame if something happened to it. Strategy. And it succeeded.
1986.
So they got this bill through, and they acquired indemnification in a special vaccine court. And since then, the industry has gone wild. And that's what gives us this vaccine schedule we have. It's a gold rush. Because what's not to like? You produce a product and you have no liability for the product. And furthermore, you have a single customer that buys a lot of that product, and they do the marketing and distribution for you. It's a perfect cash cow. So now the pesticide industry wants to have the same deal.
Yeah.
And they want to make it so that no papers published in the last decade having to do with adverse events or carcinogen, cancer risk, etc., associated with, now they call it pesticides. And this is one of the places that gets a little confusing, because for a farmer like me, Roundup is not a pesticide, it's an herbicide. It kills plants.
Yes.
But it kills plant pests. And so therefore, the EPA and the USDA consider it a pesticide. So the bill is to indemnify all pesticide manufacturers now and in the future from any potential liability associated with the products that they're producing now and future products. And one of those future products is this interesting RNA interference product. They're spraying RNA all over potato crops in order to kill a particular beetle by shutting down its gene expression of an essential gene. So that's the nature of the tech. And there may be consequences. It may kill butterflies or whatever the thing is. Who knows? It's really never been deployed in a wide scale before. It may affect human health, but it's been jammed through. They basically are on a pilot program testing this out right now in Idaho. And the House member appears to want to make it so that this technology is protected from any liability. And I say, hell no.
Well, I
I
think
say,
that's
been there before, done that, got the T-shirt, and we don't like it very much. And it leads to industrial abuse. I just don't think it's in the interests of the American citizens to provide liability shields for these mega corporations that are producing products that they put in our environment, in our food, and in our bodies.
all right. I want more time with you, but I know that you have a hard stop at the top of the hour, and I want people to follow you. I want people to get to your Substack. We'll put that all in the things as before. I probably had another 30 questions for you, but I know that we're not going to get through it. No.
I talk too much.
No, the great part is that you're giving people information, and we were able to talk about truth and kind of what, it's really important for people to understand the why. So we got through that, but they can find a lot of this in some of the articles you've written on Substack. I am a subscriber already, but I would tell people to come visit with you. Give people an idea how they can follow you, if you would, please.
Okay, so the two books are available. This is The Lies My Government Told Me, The Better Future Coming, and War Enforcing the New World Order are available wherever good books are sold, which means these days pretty much Amazon.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you can get the audiobook for the War, I think, is actually better than the written one. The tags for Truth Social and Getter and X are at RW Malone MD. I managed to tie those down. And The Substack is malone.news, so it's really easy to find. And you don't have to be a paid subscriber, but if you are, I thank you very much. And occasionally we throw out content that's exclusive for paid subscribers.
I will also tell everyone you don't have to do business with Amazon. You can buy the book through Barnes and Noble. It's a little bit better.
Or you can buy it from the publisher Skyhorse with Tony
really?
Lyon.
Okay. All right, or go directly to the publisher. That's always good as well. Dr. Malone, thanks for coming on. I do appreciate you very much, and I hope to have you on again.
Well, I look forward to it. Thanks a lot for the opportunity, and keep speaking your truth and seeking to overcome the barrage of misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation that many
Just keep
people within the
fighting.
government are pushing.
Yeah, keep fighting. All right, God bless you. That was awesome. So Dr. Malone, there's another article that he actually wrote just a few weeks ago as well. You can't go wrong because he's going to start at the beginning and get to the end very, very succinctly. And by the time you're done, the argument is very well understood. Even if you didn't know anything about it, you would still understand what is happening. This recent article that just came out about pesticides is important because, frankly, it's the same. It's like 1986 all over again. And yet we're going to have a lack of accountability. We already sit in a place right now where we have a rotted apparatus of our judiciary, and that has led to just awful things happening to Americans in every walk of life. So there's some other stuff that I want to go over. I'm going to go back to it now, and then I'm going to clean up some stuff that I think is important. Whew. All right. So let's start with Tina Peters. There's an article out there that I think you should read. And it's on X. It's called The Crucifixion of Tina Peters. This person, I think, is based out of Greenland. So you have people that are over in other countries that are getting a pretty good idea of, what is happening to to this country. And it starts off by saying they gave a Gold Star mother 9 years in prison to send a message: never look inside the machines. Not because she tampered with evidence, but because she preserved it. Not because she committed fraud, but because she documented it. Tina Peters sits in a Colorado cell today as a deliberate example and warning to every election official in America: question the count and we will destroy you. May 2021, Tina Peters, Mesa County clerk and Gold Star mother, whose Navy SEAL son died in this country, faced a choice. Dominion Voting Systems scheduled a trust to build update that would wipe all traces of the 2020 election from the county's machines. Federal Law 52 U.S.C. 2701 requires those records be preserved for 22 months. The update was happening after just 6 months. So she acted. She brought in an expert to image those drives before the wipe, preserved with the law required to be preserved. That's when the trap snaps shut. I argued this in front of the lawyers. Go keep that up there, and I just want to be able to go through some things with you. I didn't first talk to Tina Peters until August of 2021. And to be honest, things were moving very, very quickly. My life was kind of up in the air. I had to step down as the CEO of my company. I'm flying around all over the place. Frankly, I'm talking about how I want to whip the living you-know-what out of people. I was angry. And a certain part of me is still angry today. A certain part of me wants to go to war tomorrow. Rip the Band-Aid off at all costs. I want to get to the bottom of it. I don't want to wait for a system to bring justice. I want vengeance. 2021 was just different, though. 2021 was, this new experience of being involved in things that I didn't want anything to do with. And frankly, at the same time that I'm dealing with all of that, I had written all these models and handed them off to people, and I had been used more times than Joe Louis was hit in the face. People would call me up, ask me to look at something, have me write something. I would write it, hand it over to them, and within 2 hours, they were doing a podcast and saying that this was their work. And it didn't matter to me that anybody gave me credit because I didn't care about getting credit. What I cared about is that they used it to elevate themselves and to become the smart person. Well, that had happened to me for most of my life. Most of my life, people have said, all right, I'm going to latch on to Joe. I'm going to have him take me somewhere, and then I'm just going to take him and take him and take him. And here's what you need to know about me is that sooner or later, I get to the place where I've just had enough. And then I just cut the strings and I'm done. I was in a board meeting when I resigned from Frank's Beach. Mike said a bunch of stuff, and frankly, I knew something that he had done that I fundamentally could not agree with. And so I cut the string. I was like, I'm resigning right now. See you guys later. Finish your meeting. I'm done. It took Mike by surprise. And part of that is the fact that he owed me a lot of money. The other part is that I don't negotiate or hang out with stupid. And some of the decisions they were making were downright stupid. And they were costing me dearly. I was the guy that basically was the useful idiot. I was a guy you could step on. And over time, I've learned that this entire charade is all about this little, Mean Girls Club. Whether we're talking about, people that were at certain organizations that are tied to other organizations. And I would send out a text message, and then I would get another text message from someone else saying, oh, they're not allowed to talk to you anymore. And I went, okay, you're not allowed to talk to me anymore. Daddy said you can't talk to me. Who's the daddy now? Oh, let me guess. Bannon. Let me guess. Bongino. Let me guess. I mean, I could guess. I could put together a small list. And frankly, it got tiring. 2021 and what happened with Tina, when she first reached out to me, she said, hey, I need to talk to Joe. She was on an airplane headed to Missouri. Was it Missouri? Wherever the first symposium was. And I get a phone call that says, Joe, you have to get here and you have to get here now. Now I was supposed to go to a deposition. It ended up costing me $20,000 in legal fees. I was like, I got COVID. I don't want to come. Which was my way of saying I wasn't going to do it because I wasn't going to play this charade. Then I get a phone call that said, hey, will you go to Minnesota? I think not Minnesota, wherever it was. And I was like, yeah, I'll go. So I did. I show up. I had a gun on me. And I walked in and the security was like, yeah, you can't come in with a gun. I was like, well, all right, I'm leaving then. They were like, oh, let's go get permission for you. And they got me in. Now, this is when the whole thing happening with, I got to meet Tina and I went up in this room and you had Kurt Olson. You got all these people in there. Sharona Bishop, some really good people, by the way. Phil Waldron, who I met on January 5th and 6th. Phil Waldron is probably one of the most amazing men you'll ever meet. You want to know why? He said, when it got ridiculous, I'm getting out. And there was other people that did that too. I didn't take the hint. I stayed in and listened and surrounded myself with some people that frankly are the most retarded people you're ever going to meet in your life. And some good people. I met some really amazing people in the middle of this. But you got to see very quickly that it wasn't just the left that was creating a narrative. It was people on our side that were there just to gather information and create a lie so they could create division. Sharona Bishop, she's really good at it. She's probably one of the best. And I sat up there listening to Tina Peters, and I walked over to her, and I was like, Tina, do not get on that stage. She's like, oh, yeah. And Sharona's like, what? I was like, this is a mistake. I went to Kurt Olson, and I was like, this is a mistake. I went to Mike Lindell, and I said, this is a mistake. Mike's like, who are you? And I was like, I'm just Joe. You've been on my show before, but I'm just Joe. But if you do this, what's going to happen is the people out there are going to clap for her. She's going to become emboldened, and then she's going to get more and more, and it's basically going to poke the bear. You shouldn't do this. You don't need to. And what I learned a long time ago is never show all of the cards and never take your clothes off in front of the enemy. You just don't do it. And Tina gets up on stage, and after I said, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, and everything that I said was going to happen, happened. Everything. Without exception, everything that I said happened. They clapped. She became emboldened. She got it. And they put me up on stage because they're like, oh, we have this time, nothing to fill it in. Put Joe up there. So I get up there, and again, I just go through the process of Eric Coomer. This is what he said. This is what he did. And here's what I discovered afterwards. This is what I discovered. Did all this play together? right? And what are the connections between Dominion voting systems and Serbia? And so I did this presentation, got up there with David Clements, who's an amazing individual. And by the way, if you haven't seen his new podcast that just came out, you need to go watch it because it's amazing. It's 22 minutes, and it's a very succinct story of what it is we're dealing with today. I met Conan Hayes at that deal because Dennis Montgomery said that, oh yeah, we have PCAPs and we had this thing with $5 million. You're going to win $5 million if you do all this stuff. And I walked in and I started talking to him, and all the people are sitting in a room and there's no PCAPs. They had given him like 6 packets and said, oh, this is a start. Just work on this. And I just happened to be able to have access to the image for Antrim County. And I was like, hey, let me give you something to play with. Here. And I handed it to him. Work on this. This is real. And 2 of them very quickly came to the conclusion that some of the things that they had seen with Antrim County, they all wanted to get access to it. How could they mount it and do all this stuff? Because I knew that it was a disaster. And I'm a guy that fixes stuff. Like if I show up to something, I'm not going to ask permission from anyone. I'm just going to go do it. So I just stopped in this room, stopped in that room. And then the Dennis Montgomery is not going to be here. And I was like, oh, okay. And they're like, yeah, he's in the hospital in Florida. And I pick up the phone, I make a couple phone calls and said, hey, go check this out. And then I was like, he lives over here, go see what you can find. That little prick wasn't in the hospital. He was out walking out of a supermarket. And I goes, gotcha. Sends it to me. I talked to Mark Cook and Draza was there. And I'm like, he's not in the hospital. Mark's like, well, I called and checked. I was like, well, somebody there's lying because he's not in the hospital. Let me just show you he's not in the hospital. He's not in the hospital. It's a lie. It's all a lie. By the way, the PCAPs are all bullshit. And I kept asking questions because I went upstairs and talked to Conan. Come to find out, Conan was actually the one that came in to do the image for Tina Peters. And they turned off cameras and used a badge and used this other guy who's a total piece of shit. And there's a reason why I'm bringing this up. All of this history that I'm bringing up. Because it was unnecessary. But it was all about theater. It was all about, we got to make it look good. Let's just get out there and just create this fire where there's fire and we got them. We finally got them. They were going to erase it. And the little fuckstick, Dan Rubenstein, goes to Dominion and says, hey, you need to explain this. Help me get away with this. So we have all the conversations with the investigators. We have the whole thing. And guess what do you think? What do you think happened? Let me just tell you I'll tell you what happened. What do you think was going to happen? Well, I'm going to tell you what happened. Really simple. Dan Rubenstein goes to them. He goes right back to Dominion, the one that actually committed the crime, at the behest of the AG's office, and Weiser was involved in it, and you had the Secretary of State involved in it. So you had the criminals that were involved in the conspiracy and Dominion voting system, the henchmen, the cartel, all together, telling him it's time drift. And Dan Rubenstein did this little shake and makes and move and everything else, and this thing in front of the council members who were all largely elected by a shit system that was never elected to begin with. And I kept saying to them back then, I was like, listen, it's PID controllers. You're actually, Coomer's got his PhD in nuclear engineering. He says physics, but it's not, it's engineering. I was like, you need to probably look at an algorithm, and that's probably how they did it. And I was a little lazy at the time, so I didn't do all the math related to it. I didn't look under the hood. I just did my analysis when I started this, and then the analysis later. They were all full of shit. Mike Lindell didn't even own a computer. Mike doesn't even own a computer. Conan Hayes, when I sat in front of him when I was upstairs, I walked right upstairs, walked right past Phil Waldron, and I said, dude, where are the PCAPs? After I was told I couldn't get up there, I was like, I'm going up there. Stop me. Like, walk right past the guy, walk right in the room. All right, where is he? In that room? Okay. Open the door, and Conan Hayes is sitting there on his computer, and he's moving stuff and closing this box and opening this box. Like, I'm a tech CEO. You look like a fucking moron. You're opening this box and this. Let me show you the PCAPs. Let me find them for you. And he's opening these things. And I'm like, bro, just say you don't have it. It's not real. Like, save us the trouble. Oh, no, I've seen it. Show it to me. Open it up. And after about 25 minutes, he couldn't do it. I was like, you know what you're doing here, right? You're setting, this bluffing is never going to work. Bluffing does not work because the bad guys don't give a shit about bluffing. They don't care about anything up until the point that they're in handcuffs, which is why it's so disturbing that we're going through what we're going through right now. Anyway, this article, I did share it on my deal. And as you get through it, it's a really good kind of going through the show trial and what they did. It misses some very comprehensive details. And look, I got to tell you, for the last 4 years, I've been the most intolerant person you're going to find. Like, there's no part of me that has any sort of decorum towards politics or anything else. I've flown all over the country and I've talked about people being hung at gallows. Why? Because I actually do care about the people that died during COVID. I actually do care about the fact that we have to send people to war and do things like open the borders and let people get raped and hurt. Because you know what? The people at the very bottom don't have a voice. And even though they're stupid and retarded and they act stupid and retarded and tell everyone that, oh my gosh, yeah, I don't have I think that it's all white people. Because that's all they can see. So they're crazy with this leftist stuff, but they're only crazy with this leftist stuff because that's the only person that's paying attention to them. So Tina gets caught up in an entire deal. The prosecutors put on what could only be described. I've now watched the entire trial like 5 times. And I'm amazed at both the lawyers on Tina's side and on the prosecutor's side. The prosecutor didn't even try. He didn't have to. And you can't actually go watch that trial and not come to the conclusion that Judge Matthew Barrett is absolutely a patsy who was working for someone else. You can't come to any other conclusion other than that. But the problem is we're a TikTok community, so nobody's going to sit and like watch 40 hours of video. I only did it because I'm semi-retarded myself. And I needed to get some information out of it that I thought was important for how we're going to go forward with this deal with Tina. At the end of the day, what Dr. Malone said is absolutely true. We're in a post-truth society. And they can just make up whatever they want. And once you get on the train of thinking someone is bad or someone is good, you stay on that train. But our problem is not the radical left. See, they're right back at it. They're doing the DEI. They're right back at it. Vaccines. Big Pharma is gaining its footing again. You can see all the substructures that happened during Biden reemerging themselves, even in businesses. You see the same thing at halftime shows. And now you got some little queer dude out on the football field walking around like some sort of flamboyant fairy on the Rams. And that's the new cheerleader. Like, anybody needs some sort of little gay dude. And they're like, oh, they've had male cheerleaders forever. Not some little gay dude running around acting like he's got pixie dust shoved up his ass. And nobody wants to see it. It's like, oh, well, you don't think gay people watch football? I don't care if gay people watch football. I don't want to sexualize football. What do you think the cheerleaders are doing? I don't care. Cheerleaders been around for a long time. You're 1% of the population. Go watch it in your bedroom. I don't want to see it. But it gets shoved down our throat. So everything that was before during remember what I said? 100 yards. They got all the way to 99-yard line. And President Trump brought it back 20 yards. But we got another 70 to go. And by the way, they don't care. They're not letting you go back 70 yards. And we only got 3 years left. 2.5. We got a year to get rid of the machines and the mail-in ballots. Tina Peters. Crucifixion of Tina Peters is a real thing. And here's what they did. In every society going back to the times of Jesus, anytime that they wanted to send a message, they sent a message through tyranny and through absolute 100% criminal behavior. They made an example out of people. Judiciary is really good at it. And here's the thing, they just hide behind the fact that, like, if you're pro se and you do something pro se, you're not going to go anywhere. The judge is going to be like, throw it out. And there's no consequences. What are you going to do to a judge? Nothing. You're going to file a complaint against the judge? Like they did Judge Coates or Chief Judge Coates in the Colorado Supreme Court. And it's like, hey, just go ahead and retire. I know that you paid a bribe under this quid pro quo. Go check it out, by the way. Colorado Supreme Court. Quid pro quo, crime committed. Coates, Chief Judge, asked to resign. Boatwright was actually connected to it. There's no consequences for them. So Tina has literally nothing that she can do. But every elected official in the United States saw this. If you stand up for truth, we will throw you in jail. If you look inside the machines, you'll go to prison. Preserve required records, you'll face 9 years. Question the courts, lose everything. Follow federal law over state orders, get destroyed. Colorado is not corrupt. Colorado is literally a crime scene. And we don't have leaders. Polis is not a leader. He's a scumbag cartel member. Phil Weiser is not the attorney general. He basically is the hired henchman of the radical left and some really disgusting people. He's probably the most disgusting of them all. Secretary of State Jenna Griswold, probably one of the dumbest human beings you're ever going to come into contact with. But she knows how to just spit rhetoric. Eric Coomer, super smart. He's the henchman. He's the guy at the very top. He was there on day one at ground zero, and he continued through there as the chief architect to build things and then hand it out like candy to the other systems. He is your guy. Tina Peters, she is a resource. President Trump yesterday put out the post that says, you let Tina Peters out or I will do something drastic. The clock's ticking. We'll see. But I will say this about President Trump. He might do something and it might not stick. He might send someone down there and say, let her out. Send the Marshal Service down, grab her out. But if he does that, and he does not get rid of the machines and the mail-in ballots, he will face impeachment next year. Count on it. If he gets rid of the machines and the mail-in ballots and they say they're not going to do it, and he calls in and says, okay, I'm just going to confiscate the machines, you will find jurisdictions around the country that you can actually confiscate the machines. If he starts making arrests, then he has a chance to save this country. If he does not start getting the arrests and getting rid of people like Kash Patel, I call him Kardashian Patel, and Dan Bongino, and getting Bailey into the seat where he can actually do the things that he needs to do, get someone that really understands the rule of law and what the law can do, and executing, then you have a chance. If you start doing things like this, then you will push the left back on their heels. When you do this methodical thing where you wait for it, and I know the thing with Bolton got his house raided this morning. That's small potatoes. And every single time, Mr. President, I'm going to talk to you directly right now. Okay. I don't actually care. I'm from bad stock. You can say whatever you want, but I've been taking beatings for 4 years and they have slandered me from one side to the other. Here's what I know for a fact. If Coomer wasn't on that call out of 2,500 people, how did I find him? Number one. And regardless of the stuff with the Facebook posts and everything else, if all of that was, and he's the one that went and deleted his stuff. Let's say all of that doesn't exist, go do the math. Just go do the math on Coomer's dissertation and the timeline of Coomer. Go read my Substack, and then from there, take that information and plug it into Castfoot records across the entire country. And if you get an R squared factor of 0.9 or better, I'll say 9 because it's 0.9 or better, because maybe you're just bad at math and you can't get the coefficients right. But let's say it's 0.94. Then that's the same thing that we got Al Capone for. That's the same method by which you can uncover organized crime. You just start arresting people. Because if you pull enough different stuff and his algorithm is in all of these different states, now you can pull the code, source code, have somebody look at it, make sure that you examine not just Dominion and ES&S and Smartmatic and all of these guys, but now you can go into Runback. You can actually make sure that you look at everything that they've ever printed, get the logs of all that stuff, where those ballots went, how they were validated, who had access to them. Then you walk right over here to the other side and you go, okay, hey guys, over here, we're going to look at the keys to the kingdom on the other people that are working on this over in Serbia and everything else. You just confiscate all of it. And then you just start massive arrests like they did to J6ers. Only this, you're doing this at a much bigger scale, and you're doing it in competent jurisdictions that are not run by radical leftists. That's what I think you do. Give it to an FBI office in the middle of, I don't know, Ohio. I know first you got to clean it out. First you got to get rid of the Kash Patels of the world and sorry, Kardashian Patel. Even though he did say that he's going to reinstate the whistleblowers, little too little, too late. And he's only doing it because he's about to lose his job. Read this article. Because when you read it, it becomes very evident. Guys, put it, if you would, inside of the comments on my Facebook page. I mean, not Facebook page, my X page. Oh, you're not? Here, I'll do it. Let me see if I can grab it real quick. I'll grab it. No, I got it. Yeah. Drop it in Rumble. Yeah, do that. All right. So this weekend, hopefully I get out report number 2 on Substack to complement report number 1. I've also got another article that's going to go out that's going to talk about the suspendables, kind of what's happening with the FBI, my inside take, my inside baseball about what's going to happen over the next couple of months. And that's just for talking to people like Kyle and Steve and others. Kyle, if you're not following Kyle Seraphin, I don't care if you like him or dislike him as far as his irreverence to certain things. He has no patience. He has less patience than me. But go over there and just kind of check out what he has to say about what's going to happen with the FBI. President Trump did address the police and the military before his patrol yesterday. Haven't seen any evidence of him out, but let's play cut A1 if we could.
You people are winners, and I just think it's such an honor to be with you. And we're going to make Washington, D.C. great again. We're making our country great again. The country is very close to being great. When they say it's the hottest country in the world, they mean it. And this capital is right now, after 4 days, 5 days, it's at a level that you haven't seen in a long time, and it's all because of you. So I want to thank you all very much. It's an honor to be with you, and we'll always be with you. We're going to be with you for as long as I'm around. You're going to be treated as nobody more important, and thank you all very much for being here. Thank you. Thank you very much. Doug, would you like to say something? Thank you, everybody.
President Trump said something really interesting. And Susie Wiles, who's his chief of staff, she's been kind of quiet. And I think she's probably running a bunch of stuff in the White House and getting stuff done. Somebody, the same people that I've been kind of like suspect of are the ones that have gone haywire on Susie Wiles. So it's like the comment that we just had when we had Robert Spencer on, like who's bad, who's good. It's hard to argue with some of the things that are being done right now, even the replacement that's going to happen with the FBI, and not point to Susie Wiles keeping the temperature of what's happening in the communities and what people think or feel. So I'll say give her a little bit of credit for some of the things she's been able to settle things in at the White House. I don't believe that she's the bad person that everybody said that she was. And yeah, so for what it's worth. Now, with that said, John Bolton is one of the most diabolical people in the world. The only other person that I would like to see get hit by the FBI other than John Bolton would be Susan Rice. The bad Susan Rice, not the good one. But John Bolton could be faced up to 20 years in prison. And let me just tell you what's going to happen. John Bolton's going to roll over on people quicker than shit. He's going to get to the bottom. You want to talk about getting to the bottom of the election fraud? You're about to, because that guy knows all about Coomer and the elections, all about it. He was the one that said, I've been involved in coup d'etats before, not in this country, but there's a lot of things that go into it. Let's go ahead and play 3.
It is intriguing here because these are long-standing allegations that the book indicated or referenced classified material that he may have acquired when he was in the administration. We're not clear as to what that is, but it would suggest that it could be national defense information. The reason that's important is that creates a heightened potential penalty. So you can have penalties that range from 5 to 20 years. 20 years tends to be the sentences for concealing information, obstructing justice. Simply having classified information can weigh in at about 10 years. And there are often multiple counts because each of those documents can be charged separately. So there is a strange history here. So you had these allegations coming out as early as the first Trump administration. Then there was an allegation that the Biden administration essentially scuttled a further look at this case. Right. And now we have this new development. But we really don't know if there's something that has occurred most recently, whether they uncovered something that they believed is sort of evergreen, that this is still a viable criminal case.
So,
viable criminal case. And I want to take you back in time if I can before we close this out. I've gone way over. We're gonna take like the extra stuff that I do and we're gonna put it onto Substack and what is it called? What's the other one called? Locals. We're gonna figure that out here. Make sure that we have a place where you guys can start talking to me directly in that place as well. But John Bolton, I want you to remember what he just did. Let's play this next one. This is what John Bolton did. Let's play it.
Any given moment. But I don't think he cared about the classification system. I don't think he appreciated the sensitivity of this information, and he didn't appreciate the sensitivity of how it was often acquired, the so-called sources and methods. So this had been briefed to him before I arrived. It was repeated frequently. I think it simply had no impact on him whatever.
There's a couple of different ways that people think about this, and people who are not friendly to the president, who think about what's happened here. And one of them is, Donald Trump, master thief, criminal, running some kind of elaborate conspiracy to bring things out of the White House and keep them secret for potentially for political or financial gain. There are other people who attitude is Trump is chaotic, he's careless, he's not that smart. He took these things almost by mistake, and now he's basically stamping his feet and saying they're mine. I don't want to give them up. Give me a sense of where you think the truth lies with respect to Trump's intelligence, carelessness, and the degree to which he might have brought motive to bear on taking these documents out of the White House and keeping them for this long at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, it's very hard to speculate on motive other than that he liked cool things. He saw things so he wanted to take them, and he was pretty much able to take them, and not just on classified information matters, on all kinds of things that crossed his desk. Some days he liked to eat a lot of French fries. Some days he took classified documents. He wanted them. Why did he want them? Because he could get them.
Karma's a bitch, and it came back on him pretty hard. But I want to point something out. The arrest can't be tied to President Trump. He had a hat on, and he said, and today is like, I was right the whole time. I have a hat at the house that says Jira, Joe is right again. I can appreciate that, but the biggest thing that we need right now is we need arrests as it relates to Dominion voting systems, ES&S, Smartmatic. We need those arrests. Smartmatic, they got arrested during the Biden administration. Shortly after, I think, or shortly before President Trump won the election in November. But let's be honest. We have we have charades that are being played out right now. And there's this little punk that was on my X feed. His name is, what is that little punk's name? He's one of those Colorado Progress Now people. Alan Franklin. And then this guy doesn't like the fact that I called him a little bitch. But he said that I've cost hundreds of millions of dollars in lawsuits and everything else. Keep repeating the same lie over and over and over again, and people will believe it, right? But we're not believing it because it's not true, and we're sick and tired of their lies. But now the rest need to have to happen, because people like me and others, we're just tired. We're tired of the bullshit. We're tired of basically being the punching bag for the radical left, and you telling us that we have to just take our time. We have to wait. Wait for what? Wait for what? Tell me what I'm supposed to wait for. I'm supposed to wait till you take the rest of my money. Maybe I could just send it over to Mike Lindell. He can burn it. I got to wait until they wait for what? What am I waiting for? What are we waiting for? We can't arrest people because you got Kardashian and Patel in the FBI, because the DOJ, frankly, has an incestuous relationship where the states actually infected the DOJ. I mean, it happened in Colorado. The AUSA for Colorado is married to a Supreme Court justice in the Colorado Supreme Court. And don't even get me started on what's going on in places that should be sensible, like Wyoming or Idaho. I mean, it's just crazy. You can't cut the cancer out because the cancer is so pervasive, but then we just don't get to it. The only way to do it is just start arresting people. That's it. You got to just work past it and say, okay, here's the timeline. You were there the entire time. Your algorithm is in every single machine. Just take it. Just find a math guy that is not a radical leftist. Bring Ed Solomon to the front. Bring Draza Smith to the front. Bring Sean Smith out. You don't have to bring me. I mean, I will literally sit on my hands. I just said that, listen, here's the correlation. Better way, use Grok. Use AI to tell you, and I promise you'll come to the same conclusion. All the elections were stolen using algorithms. And that the ability for them to use that point condition to get a fixed outcome is outlined in what's in the Mesa County reports. Read those. Get Jeff O'Donnell, who's really good at database stuff. That's probably the extent that I would get him involved. And then just work backwards. And the second that you have a correlation, and that leads to causation because it's in 25, 30 different counties, then you know that's your guy. You know that everyone in Dominion needs to be arrested. You're just like, listen, one of you guys is going to talk, you're all getting arrested. But the guy that was there all the way back, the chief architect back in 2005, his name's Eric Coomer. He's the linchpin. He's not just a subject in it. The reason why he's able to go sue people and have this abundant just coffer of cash and can get judges to do what he wants them to do and politicians to do things and people to write an article about him as if he's the Holy Grail and leave out all the bad stuff that he's ever done. And the fact that he has a Satan tattoo and he wanted to rape his wife and wrote about making her bark like a dog and his being a drug addict and bring all the bad. This guy's never had a redeeming quality in his entire life. And they wrote an entire article making him look like the poster child for the Vatican. He cleaned the entire internet. You don't have this authority unless you are deeply connected in the CIA and have every tech company on speed dial. It does not happen. And he was at every crime scene. And yet, here we are. So just arrest people. And if everything that I just said is not true, then please tell me it's not true. Tell me it's not true. Tell me what part of that is not true. and why I'm the guy holding this bag. And like Malone has to hold the bag, and Bobby Kennedy has to hold. All of us have to hold this bag, and you're a conservative, and you're MAGA, and you want to make America great again. You're a racist and a bigot, but none of it's true. But you know what's true, but you won't do a fuck all about it. Whew. Okay, that's all I got for you. I'm gonna enjoy the rest of my night. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night. You can call Jared Polis, 202-866-2471. Demand that Tina be released. I will tell you this. This little clown said something about the fact that keep spreading Christ. What did he say? Keep spreading Christ. Look, I'm from the south side of heaven. I'm from the south side of heaven. I never told you I was perfect. I love the Lord. I'm sure he'll judge me harshly for wanting to beat the hell out of people. I'm sure. I'm comfortable with that. But if we don't start acting with boldness, if we don't start doing the things that are necessary and stop caring what the left care, I don't care what the left thinks. I don't care what the judges think. I don't care what any of these people think. Judge Martinez said this in his ruling. He said that Joe's animosity towards the judiciary is well noted. Who do you think he got that from? He went and watched some videos, and they sent him stuff, and he probably had some conversations he wasn't supposed to have through his clerk, and go find out this information. And how do I know that? Because the system is crooked. It's fully baked into a hubris that they think that they're untouchable and that we're their slaves. I'm nobody's slave. President Trump is doing the right thing. He's got a few people around him that, frankly, I'm more and more, as I get further down this road, convinced are actually really good. But the ones that aren't are really bad. And I'm starting to get that place in my head. I was having a conversation about this where I just don't believe that it's all going to work out. I pray it does, but I'm going to contingency plan 2, 3, and 4. Because President Trump has to act faster. And there's a reason why people have worked for me for a long period of time. And there's a reason why people have worked for President Trump for a long period of time. He knows how to get stuff done. But some of these boat anchors that he has around him now are going to slow him down to the point where he can't solve the problem fast enough. So I pray that he is able to eliminate them, including, Kardashian Patel, who cares only about himself. All right, let's pray it out. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Somebody just said, give Cash Patel a break. No, I won't. No, thank you. You can give him a break. I have no interest in doing anything for that guy. All right. Let's pray it out, yeah? Next week, maybe hopefully we'll get the system running so we can have some phone calls. You guys can call in and chit-chat. Jeff says, no problem. If you people only knew what I just seen about Trump and I voted for him 3 times, I feel horrible. What are you talking about? All right. Never mind, Lily. What are you talking about? Go ahead. I'm not getting off till I hear about this. I just pray people listen to him telling us the snake poem. What does that mean? Shocking what? God bless you, Susan. The good Susan Rice. Too bad they didn't send you to the UN. You would have gotten a lot more done. Yeah. Someone's going to tell me that President Trump's bad. Get out of here. Get out of here. You guys can't come up with anything bad about President Trump. Oh, look what he did with Trump University. Yeah, because he ran it, right? No, he comes up with the idea. He implements it. He's got a bunch of little douchebags. It's like running a company. I've run a company before and had people steal and rob me blind. I'm just going to tell you right now. I just got done firing a bunch of people who basically, in essence, embezzled a bunch of money and stole a bunch of guns. So, and one of those guns, if anything happened and I didn't report it, it would look horribly on me, not on them. But I did catch them. So if you think that President Trump is responsible for $1 billion operation and that he's the guy that kind of was down there in the weeds getting stuff done, he never did. What else you got to say? He is talking about himself. Who's talking about himself? Oh, yeah. Man, block this guy. Get off my feed. You're full of shit. The NVMY Lily. Just get rid of him. He's talking about himself. You're a douchebag. Get out of here. Forever. Yeah. Yep. Nope. Forever. There you go. Boom. Hit that. See ya. Punk ass. He's talking about himself. GFY. I have no patience for it anymore. You want to take shots? This is not about being on Team Trump. It's the fact that Trump is doing the things that President Trump needs to do. And I don't agree with everything that he does, frankly. But I do recognize the fact that he's the CEO. There are things that people don't like that I do. And guess what? But I don't walk around saying that, oh, he's bad. Look what he did. Oh my gosh, look what he said, grab her by the pussy. Right? If that is the worst thing that he did, man, I don't even want to see any of your all's lives because it's a train wreck compared to what President Trump has done in his life. The guy doesn't even drink. He's never done drugs and he's never drank. Yeah, but he's horrible. He's horrible. He married a beautiful woman and had amazing children who have done great things that aren't douchebags. Yeah, that he's terrible. You got the drug addicted, I don't even know what you want to call it, Hunter Biden and Anthony Weiner and all these other people who are freaking horrible. And the only thing you do is say, oh, he hung out with Epstein. I have a picture. Yeah, Jovan Pulitzer has a picture with President Trump too. And Jovan's a paper tiger, lion sack of shit as well. Okay, I'm done. You guys have a great day. You guys have a great day. You guys have a great weekend. I will see you. We cut them out. Yes. Toodles. All right. What is GFY? Gammy, just go Google GFY. It'll tell you. I'm not going to say it. That's why I said GFY. There you go. Charlie gave it to you. All right. Hey, listen, I appreciate you guys this week. It's been a great week. We had a lot of great guests. We're going to have more guests next week. I hope you don't mind me ranting at the end. I just felt like I had to. So there you go. All right, let's pray. Father God, thank you. Thank you for the time that I had with Robert Spencer and the time that we had with Dr. Malone. Thank you for the ability to kind of speak truth and talk in that truth. Father, we know that the job that President Trump has is it's huge. The weight on his shoulders, he handles with such grace and eloquence that only you could be lifting it above him. But in large part, Father, I know that you're doing works through the people around him. And I don't agree with some of them. But I agree with what President Trump is trying to accomplish. And I know that he is there because you put him there. And so, Father, I ask you to give him the strength of 1,000 men, to give him the wisdom that only you can bestow upon a single man. I ask you to block the efforts of those around him to interfere with things that need to happen for us to restore order. And Father, I strongly, with everything in me, I ask you to tear down the judiciary completely. They have done so much harm to the American people. They have acted with impunity. They have created such chaos. And we can see it so clearly, Father, that it just needs to be just completely gutted. I don't even know what that looks like. But I do know that the people that have done horrible things need to be held accountable. Father, we also know that we're at this special place where we have to start acting So I ask you to give President Trump and others the courage, the commitment, the tenacity, the ability to bypass those that would stand in opposition and arrest and hold those people accountable for stealing our voice and treating us like slaves. Lastly, Father, I just ask that you bless those people that are listening, that they may feel the hope that you instill in our communities by just being present and there, by this restoration that we are trying to accomplish. We thank you, Father. And I say these things humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. All right. Have a safe weekend, everyone. Have fun. Have a drink once in a while. Joe, Noah did It's Good for Stress. So is prayer and the Bible and writing reports that everyone wants to read because it's true. So have a blessed weekend. I'll see you guys on Monday. And thank you for being with me all these years. God bless you.